from around the country. Also, Employment and Labor Relations Minister says it is untrue that government intends to embark on mass layoffs in the public sector as part of the conditions for the release of the International Monetary Fund's financial package. And we'll share with you the story of an SHS leaver, now a driver's mate, who still has the ambition to become an economist. Those are the headlines. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. This is Joy News on Multi TV, and the news is also on ABN TV across Europe. Stay with us for more. And now to the details. The Supreme Court has declared as unconstitutional the district and unit committee elections scheduled for March 3. The court subsequently directed the Electoral Commission to call off the election and start the entire process all over again. The suit to challenge the constitutionality of the election was initiated by Benjamin Mensah, an aspirant who was disqualified from contesting as an assemblyman in the election in the Eipe electoral area in the Central Region. The EC, according to the Supreme Court, would have to start the entire electioneering process using CI-85, that is the legal instrument which lays out electoral boundaries for the district elections in 2015, rather than the previous law the EC used. Legal representative of the plaintiff, Alexander Fenyo-Marking, described the decision as a victory for the rule of law.
It's a great joy for me personally, and I believe my client is very happy. We've once again demonstrated in our country that rule of law works. It cannot be taken lightly where a constitution makes a provision and a constitutional body decides to act ultra vires of the constitution. I said it time without number when the matter came before the House that the conduct of the Electoral Commission was inconsistent with the constitution. Unsurprisingly, a fisherman from my own constituency came up that he has been denied the opportunity of standing the election as a result of the conduct of the EC. Today, by a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court has so declared. And we are thankful to God, and we are thankful to the bench for spending 3 days. I mean, perhaps it's unusual that the Supreme Court, yesterday, Mr. President delivered the State of the Nation address. Right after that, they came back to court. We continued the debate. Today, they have sat through to deliver this landmark judgment. We are grateful to the bench, and I think that it's a day for every Ghanaian to have confidence in our judiciary.
So, Kwache Afreniama was in court for Joy News.
Well, today the 7 judges, including William Atugugba, Sofa Akufu, decided, and it was a unanimous decision by the court, that the EC had no legal basis, or the ongoing process so far as the district assembly elections is concerned is unconstitutional. They mentioned that the arguments put forward by legal representatives of the Electoral Commission led by Mr. Kwashi Aidan, for example, quoting CI 68 that deals with unit committee elections and CI 75 that deals with presidential and parliamentary elections, did not provide enough basis for going ahead with the process. And they also mentioned that the lawyers for the Electoral Commission failed to convince the court or give the court enough reason not to annul the process. And so in fine, the court is saying that there is no existing law that allows the ongoing process that would have led to the holding of this election on March 3, that's next week Tuesday, to go on. There is no law that allows that to happen. The Electoral Commission actually closed nominations a day before that CI was matured before Parliament. So they sought the court to annul the process, to restart the entire process and depend on CI 85 to move this entire process forward, and also sought for the court to declare what the EC was doing as unconstitutional. Speaking to analysts, speaking to those who are well vexed with issues of district assembly issues, and looking at it from the practical side, this election is supposed to take place some few days from now, next week Tuesday, March 3, and the EC having to restart this entire process would have to open nominations, set a certain timeline within which they have to close the nominations, and realistically the Electoral Commission cannot do all this within this short period. So obviously the date will have to be shifted forward, and you look at the amount of money that the Electoral Commission has pumped into this. Talk about the advertisement, talk about the officials on the ground who are rolling out this procedure, talk about the money that some of these aspirants who have already submitted their forms have already put into it. Now the point is that money has gone, a lot of money has gone down the drain, both on the part of the Electoral Commission, the taxpayers' money, and talking about the aspirants themselves, the amount of money they've had to spend. There's also been talk and discussion about the conduct of the Electoral Commission itself, how this will affect the EC's credibility, because this is, we look back at what happened during the 2012 elections and how there were some discrepancies with pink sheets and how officials failed to sign and fill the forms and all that. Analysts say that this could affect the integrity of the EC as the election regulatory body in this country.
Well, we'll still stay on this matter a little longer, because over the course of these hearings, lawyers for the Electoral Commission appeared unprepared for the case. While Kwachi Afre-Nneoma, who sat through the proceedings, reports there were several instances when the judges appeared to be correcting basic errors by the EC's lawyers.
Looking at how the past 2 days, actually, since Wednesday the 25th, how the sort of arguments that lawyers for the Electoral Commission led by Mr. Kwashi Aidan have advanced, they haven't sounded too convincing, and it was clear that they didn't have any legal basis to push forward the argument. For example, we've talked about how they relied on CI 75 to push the argument. The court pointed out to them that this deals only with presidential and parliamentary elections. Later, they had to rely on CI 88, which talks about unit committee elections. Then you would wonder that, is it because these lawyers are not aware of the specific details of these constitutional instruments, or they just wanted to, it's baffling really, but on the whole, many have said, many legal brains I've spoken to who also monitored this particular case tell me that the fault is largely on the part of the lawyers for the Electoral Commission, because they were supposed to defend the case of the EC in court, and looking at how they didn't have their facts right. On the first day, for example, they came to court, it was clear they didn't have any legal proper legal arguments to legal provisions to back their case. They asked for a 15-minute adjournment. The court granted that. Later on, after the break, they came back. They said they needed to consult the EC official in court that day, and after that, they asked the court again to grant them a day's adjournment. That was granted. They came to court the following day. The legal provision they stated, the court still wasn't convinced. And if you look at the final judgment here, the court states that clearly the EC failed to answer the very question of whether what they did was constitutional or not. And in providing in arguing their case, they failed to convince the courts.
So very little has been heard from the Electoral Commission after the ruling, apart from a test statement announcing the indefinite suspension of the March 3 polls. The statement reads, in view of the Supreme Court's decision in the matter of Benjamin Eyi-Mensah, the Electoral Commission on Friday, 27 February 2015, with regard to the maturity of CI 85, the district level elections and all activities connected with them have been suspended forthwith until further notice. Meanwhile, the Institute of Local Government Studies has expressed disappointment in the Electoral Commission and its legal team for not heeding to advice right from the onset. Speaking on today's big story with Aisha Ibrahim, the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research, Eric Odrosai, indicated the ruling will not augur well for the Electoral Commission, stating this is a blot on its credibility.
Coming because the Electoral Commission had previously been cautioned by Parliament when they rushed Parliament virtually to ensure that CI 85 matured. And even before Parliament saw the maturity of CI 85, the Electoral Commission itself has gone ahead to open nominations and then close the nominations a day before the maturity of the CI 85. So technically, in law, they closed the elections before the CI, based on which the election is to be matured. So in law, it is wrong. The Electoral Commission's attention was drawn to it, but nothing was done about it.
So what does this mean for the Electoral Commission?
My sister, it means the record of the Electoral Commission, as far as organizing local level elections, has further been pinned because they don't then have good credibility when it comes to the organization of local level elections. Secondly, the Electoral Commission failure to adhere to basic legal principle required of an election has cost the nation a lot of money because they'll have to go all over again to start the process. And the other side of it is, I hear the Electoral Commission has released a statement this evening telling people that the district level election has been suspended as a federal notice. I was expecting the Electoral Commission should have first apologized to Ghanaians before even coming out with this particular press release, because the Assembly members have spent a lot of money. Other national institutions have also spent a lot of money. Look at the work NCCE has done. Look at the work Ministry of Local Government has done. Look at the work other PSOs have done. Look at the work Kodillo is doing. And all of these things is going with, they have created a lot of problems in the local government system. Look at the local government system. We don't know when the election is going to be conducted. What is going to then happen is that the assemblies are going to be managed without assembly members. And it has an implication in the management of resources at the local government level.
So at the local government level, let's look at the structure itself, particularly with those who are already in the assemblies and those who were vying to get elected. What happens to them? What does this mean to them?
It means they are all in limbo. Those who are aspiring to be elected as assembly members cannot call themselves assembly members. Those who were there as assembly members, as soon as the assembly is dissolved, they are no more assembly members. What it then means is that the assembly is being managed by the technical officers and the chief executive. We don't have a general assembly. We don't have a finance and administration committee of the general assembly to manage the assembly. At first, the assembly will have an executive committee to continue to manage the assembly until a new assembly is inaugurated. And we don't know when, because the EC will have to take its time to open the polls again, open nominations, go and print new ballot papers, which will take not less than 1 month.
So, what are the implications of the Supreme Court's ruling on the local governance system, and how does government intend to handle this development? Joining us on the telephone now is the Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Nilante Vanderpoel. Good evening to you, sir, and many thanks for your time.
Sister, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How did government receive the Supreme Court ruling, especially considering the implications that it has on the local government system?
Well, thank you very much. I say good evening to all your listeners. Let me say we were shocked, we were a bit surprised about the decision, but we've taken it in good stride. And as a ministry, the time it came, today I was in Kumasi for the program. Honorable Yekun was in Ho for the program. So we've decided we are going to have a meeting with our directors as soon as possible tomorrow. And we'll take a decision. We also seek advice from the Electoral Commission on what they will do. But we are in contact with the Electoral Commission and to see what the implications are and what difficulties and challenges this ruling presents to us.
So what are the contingency plans that government has to manage the situation until the elections eventually come off?
Well, I will not be in a position to be able to give you exact government position on it, but the fact still remains that from the ministry level, we've already taken a decision because by law, the assembly stand dissolved from the 14th. So we'll go ahead with the dissolution of assembly on the 14th, on the 14th of March. So we hope that by that time we'll be able to have a way out, and then we can have the new assembly inaugurated after the elections have been held at the new date that we fixed by the Electoral Commission.
So as it stands now, there aren't any contingency plan, you mean?
We are yet to meet to really decide, because we have to meet with the Electoral Commission for them to tell us what their plans will be in the aftermath of this judgment. And then based upon that, we can also draw a program of action to see what to do. But definitely, my sister, you agree with me that this is going to be a lot of problems for the country and for all of us. It's going to cost us a lot, because all these adverts and all these notice of a bill of elections, notice of elections, and all those things that have been done will have to be redone again. So it's going to be double cost to all of us as a country.
But the election is going to come off anyway.
It will come on, but it will not come. I'm not sure it will come on the 3rd. And when you do an advert saying that the election is on the 3rd,
right,
and the election is not coming on the 3rd, you have to go and redo that advert to say that to announce the people the new date.
Yeah.
This one election that we spent a lot on advertisement because of the interest that we want to generate in there. Yeah. We've done a lot of adverts, we've done a lot of work on it. We've gone around the country educating people and talking to people to get involved. But this one is a blow to us. It means that we have to redo everything again.
Can you quantify the cost? Can you quantify the cost?
My sister will not be able to do so. But
all right,
I think it's a big blow to all of us.
Okay, finally, Honorable, is there a timeline that you're working with to ensure that the elections do come off as planned?
We are going to meet tomorrow, as I said, when we have met with the directors and the rest at the ministry, our technical advisors at the ministry, and the Electoral Commission. Whatever they indicate to us, then we can forward it to government for a decision to be made.
Thank you very much. Nilante Vanderpoy is Deputy Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, giving us some insight there. Now, let's get on to the telephone lines for reactions from around the country to the ruling by the Supreme Court. Albert Asare joins us first from Boko in the Upper East region. Good evening to you, Albert. Well, we don't have Albert. We have Benjamin Peters. Benjamin Peters, tell us what's happening in your region and how are the people taking this announcement?
The atmosphere is that of disappointment, I must say. There is disappointment almost on every face, because this is an election which is more of we had the conception that people are not going to participate. So as through media interventions and other adverts, people are now getting used to the concept of the participating in this election. So when the announcement came, it came as a shock to everybody, including we, the media. We were all prepared to. We know that we had an assignment coming Tuesday to cover. So it is a total shock. And I can tell you that assemblymen I don't know how to describe it, but they are disappointed. Because a lot of has gone down the drain. Time, energy, money, everything. And we don't know the fate now. I think it's now going down the drain. So they are they don't even want to speak to read the media. I called the regional electoral officer, and he said he's not in the mood to speak to us, so we should hold on.
Right. Thank you very much, William. Benjamin Peters is in the Western region, is our Western regional correspondent. Now we do have Albert Asare from Boko in the Upper East region. Albert, tell us what is happening over there in your region.
Well, here in Bolgatanga, the situation is not too different. A lot of the aspirants who were hoping that by 3rd March they will get to see the end of the contest are pretty disappointed. I can tell you that some of them had actually been campaigning today, only to return and hear of this development. So they are pretty disappointed.
Right.
But for some of them, they also feel that it may be an opportunity for them to catch up, especially for those who did not start their campaign too early.
Gives them more time to continue campaigning until they eventually have to get into the election, I guess.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Albert Asare is our Upper East regional correspondent, and we have Mohammed Nuruddin from the Ashanti region. Mohammed, what is happening in the Garden City?
I guess it's all about disappointment. Most of the assembly members that I have spoken to are very, very disappointed. And one of them had just, told me that he's gonna sue the Electoral Commission by Monday if they are not able to give them any reasonable explanation. They are going to sue them. He has been working together with other assembly members to, proceed with that action by Monday if the Electoral Commission doesn't give them any reasonable explanation.
But what more explanation do they need? Isn't a court ruling enough to let them understand the situation?
Yeah, exactly. They're saying that they want because it is because of negligence, and it is negligence, right, and then waste of time on their part and right, financial loss to the state. So they're going to sue them so that, because they have wasted their time, and then the Electoral Commission have also caused financial loss to the state. So they are not happy about that.
Right.
And they are going to sue them by Monday if there is no any reasonable explanation.
Thank you very much. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin is our Ashanti regional correspondent, telling us what is happening in the Garden City. Sounds quite interesting, but we will be following this development and bring you every detail that you need to know. You're watching Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV and also on ABN TV across Europe. We'll take a break. Please stay with us. Welcome back and many thanks for staying. Now let's go back to the Ashanti region. A court in Kumasi has adjourned hearing of the case against hip life artist Kwakese, who is standing trial for possession and use of marijuana. The hip life artist spent several weeks in the Kumasi Central prisons after his arrest and subsequent remand. He was later released from prison on December 30. Hearing was expected to resume today, but the court decided to once again adjourn the case without setting a new date. A Ghanaian national working with the British High Commission here in Accra has been sacked over visa fraud allegations. The identity of the suspect is yet to be made public. The British High Commissioner to Ghana, John Benjamin, announcing the action on Thursday, wrote the following on his Twitter handle. Today, we dismissed a Ghanaian employee of the British High Commission for gross misconduct related to visa fraud. The Commission later released a statement which said, though such cases are extremely rare, it takes allegations against any of its staff extremely seriously and will always take the strongest possible action. The statement explains further that the incident came to light precisely because the strong internal audit and control mechanisms that the High Commission has in place to monitor its entire visa operations. 5 pupils of the Mamobi Prison's primary school here in Accra have been suspended for drinking alcohol and displaying drunken behavior in class. A teacher concerned about the pupils' unusual behavior is said to have conducted a search which revealed that they had smuggled into the classroom a palm wine which they imbibed in between lessons. Joy News' Kwete Nate has been interacting with the pupils.
This is my friend who said I should brought it. She came to my house and bought it. So it remained one. She told me that I should bring the other one. So when I brought it, and she paid me and she shared it to my friends.
But you drank some of the palm wine in the house?
No, please. Even my parents know about it.
You said you tasted it. Was that your first time you tasted palm wine?
Yes, please.
And you were feeling happy?
No, I was feeling dizzy that day.
Would you take again if you are given the opportunity?
No, please.
So now you've been asked to write a bond of good behavior.
Yes.
Why are you writing it?
I'm writing it because I won't do that again. I won't repeat myself again.
How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling sorry for myself.
Kwete Nate there speaking with the students who are said to have been drinking palm wine. A bridge linking Ashai Manzeno near Tema to other part of Accra is being described as a death trap by road users. Concerned residents say the bridge needs to be fixed urgently to avert any disaster.
A large section of the bridge has been washed away by rainwater. Residents cited countless accidents on the bridge and are worried there will be further destruction should there be a heavy downpour.
The bridge is not safe at all. Just recently, a child fell off. The road has become narrow and it causes congestion. It floods when it rains and becomes inaccessible to us. Moreover, the roads which were recently constructed have developed potholes and are in a very bad state. We need it to be fixed for us.
Na yakachiri nti yesra ba na omla no be yama na drivers ayewa ye brepa road nu su nye efre akwa akataman so road nu nyina nye omo ye so enche bia o ni nyina tutu hwe kra bo se road nu nyina tutu omla no be yama na ye brepa.
The truth is, when it rains, we are affected. Our houses get flooded, so we are pleading for it to be fixed for us, or else we won't take part of the elections.
Another disturbing issue that calls for immediate attention is a crack in the middle of the road. Motorists still use it, knowing that it is a disaster waiting to happen. Aspiring Assemblyman Dominic Asante said the area has been deprived of development for a long time and added they would not take part in the elections if their developmental issues are not addressed.
The phrase disability is not inability has done quite a bit in changing people's attitudes towards persons with disability, though there's still more work to be done. In the following feature, we tell you the inspiring story of a physically challenged teacher who is making a significant impact on education in his community.
It is a typical weekday for pupils, teachers and College of Education trainees here at the Monomedie Primary School. This has been a center of formal education for hundreds of pupils in this farming community, as well as those from Akachi and surrounding communities. It is usually difficult to keep pupils in school here, especially on farming days. But the teachers here say they are doing their best. Gershon Vigbedo is one of the teachers here. He is in charge of Class 2 and teaches ever at the junior high school. He started life as a farmer before seeking education to become a pupils teacher. Now he holds a diploma in basic education. He intends to go further. 12 out of his 20-year experience has been spent here at Monomedie Basic School. His superiors are impressed with his delivery.
He is in charge of our little school farm and then grounds work. So working with him, I'm always proud to have him on my staff.
As school activities halt into dead silence, at about 2 p.m., Gershon makes his way back home. He would usually get a lift in either a vehicle or on a motorbike to a junction close to his home in Akachi, which is about 15 minutes drive away from the school. Walking from that junction to his house is obviously difficult for Gershon, but consistently he makes a stop by his lovely wife's sales joint for a brief romantic moment. Back at home, he rekindles his dreams of completing his mansion, which is halfway through. Gershon seems to have done well for himself and cannot be bothered about what negative societal perception has dished out to him.
To be frank, I'm physically challenged, but that doesn't pose any problem to me. I have the hope that since life is in me, I must strive to live a life of humiliation. So I begin to work and then feed myself and that of my family.
But it has not been an all-pampering path living with a physical disability. Winning the heart of his wife was just one of the difficult hurdles.
The time I was trying to cut hair or to catch hair, people are saying that being a disabled person or a physically challenged person, I may not be at a good position to feed her well or to provide all her needs. So she should not go in for this marriage, but she didn't listen to that advice.
Some even doubted his sexual capabilities, but he won her heart eventually, and they have been together for the past 20 years. He is seeking a bright future of his own and wants to serve as an encouragement to other physically challenged persons.
No one on this earth is useless. They are also useful in the community and then in the country at large. They must find something doing. They shouldn't take their disability to be an excuse and then be doing nothing.
For the hundreds of pupils who have sat through his teachings and many village folks who have benefited from his farm produce benevolence, Gershon Vigbedo is a hero. So is he to his family, whom he has vowed to provide for no matter what. His physical disability is a thick blur in the sequence. Giftiandopia, Joy News, Akachi, Volta Region.
Let's come back to the capital now. You can find them at every lorry station, and without them, you may end up boarding the wrong vehicle. They help make journeys less stressful. On a bus, they would be called conductors, but in Ghana, where we have more lorries lorries or minibuses, we call them mates. Bibi Bedua Afo spent some time with 22-year-old John Amponsa, a graduate of the Kweje Senior High School, who now works as a driver's mate but is still harboring his dreams of becoming an economist.
This is what John goes through every day in order to fend for himself. His daily routine starts at 6 a.m. and ends late at night. A native of Anumabo in the central region of Ghana, John moved to Accra with the hopes of making enough money to further his education. He wants to be an economist, but that dream is not likely to materialize anytime soon. The bus he works with by day becomes his bedroom at night.
Starting to call for passengers is no easy. We sign a sign almost 2 hours before the passengers come. A passenger will come and ask you, where is this bus going? Because you are shouting for Fadama. Because the person knows that he is going to Fadama, then he will come and ask you, where is this bus going? Most passengers don't expect. They think those who have failed their examination come to do this mess. But sleeping in the car is no easy because we have mosquito. Mosquito will even bite you. Sleeping in the car is no easy. Because our best can come and even if you have money in your pocket, they'll come and take it. You can't do nothing. And if you're not strong like me, as I am, they will even beat you and go.
So as many as Amponsa who have found themselves in this kind of a situation have to battle it out with the difficulties involved in order to secure himself money to further his education. Indeed, there is hope for the driver's mates, as many who started this way have found themselves in upper heights in society.
The first of 8 children, John is expected to be a shining example to his younger siblings. He speaks about efforts he's making to further his education.
This kind of job is not my profession to do this. My aim is to be an economist. Because of my financial background, I have to do this kind of job. Today, I earn 16 Ghana cedi a day, and I use 6 cedi as a pocket money and 10 cedi as social savings. And that will help me to afford to myself.
Like John, the chairman of the Odona Lorry Station, Benjamin Okain, had to struggle through life to get to his current position.
I've come a mate before. From mate before I come a driver, and now I'm a chairman here. I was 8 years, my father died. So I myself and my mother too, we have about 6 children. So as I finished my Form 4 in this case, I can't continue my education. So I have to force myself, and I come to mate. Then made to driving side, then I'll become a senior man here.
Benjamin Okain is certain John can pull through, just as he did if he remains focused and works hard. Bibi Bedua Afo's report for Joy News.
Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV. Up next is business news. Please stay with us. So Etonam Say is joining us with some business. And Etonam, we understand that some government workers are afraid they're going to lose their jobs.
Well, we have some interesting news in the world of business from government.
Right, let's see what that is.
Right, it's time for business. Etonam Say, the Employment and Labor Relations Minister Haruna Idrisu says it is untrue that government intends to embark on massive layoffs in the public sector as part of conditionalities for accessing nearly $1 billion of financial assistance from the International Monetary Fund. The fund, whose board is set to ratify the negotiations conducted in government by its staff, has been concerned about the country's heavy expenditure on the salaries of government employees. The Employment and Labor Relations Minister, however, says there will be no layoffs, but that government will ensure no new persons are hired.
What I do know is an exemption even for persons in education and health, and therefore we would continue to employ people within that sector, and that was negotiated and agreed on. What we have also agreed on in terms of the wage bill is to keep it within budget limits and not to allow for upward adjustment or reviews that will undermine our efforts at fiscal consolidation and fiscal discipline. So every other year we'll negotiate with our tripartite partners in determining what will be a reasonable and acceptable wage limit, which will always reflect ability to pay, contribution to GDP, as we recognize labor as a major contributor to that, and also matters relating to inflation. The object is to tighten controls of the management of the payroll in order that we can make some savings and sweep out or weed out undeserving persons who are on the payroll, as has been exemplified in the exposure on the National Service Scheme. We will relate it to other subvented and disadvantaged organizations, and we primarily, as and when it's necessary, engage other private sector players in terms of ensuring prudent and judicious management of the pay rule.
So the assurance I get from you that there wouldn't be any layoffs going forward, even under this program?
Within the public sector, I'm not aware of any such as was concluded with the IMF. I do know that there would be limits in terms of new additions into the public service, save for persons who are in the health and education sector. We would continue to be able to do that, but we may not be able to add more because the evidence already is that we have a very bloated public and civil service. Probably in the foreseeable future, we'll embark on some reforms in that area.
In other news, Ghana is expected to receive $100 million in April as the first tranche of bailout funds under the International Monetary Fund program. The funds should come in after the IMF board meets on April 3 to consider Ghana's request for financial assistance. According to persons close to the negotiations, Ghana's request is likely to be approved by the IMF board. Their optimism is based on progress made so far by government on conditions set out under the bailout program and work done so far by the staff mission on Ghana's request. The funds to be disbursed in April are part of a total of $940 million that the country is expected to receive under the IMF program. Ghana is also hopeful the release of the IMF will free up about $2 billion in donor funding the country's donors partners have held on to for various reasons having to do with the management of the economy. Ghana's program, according to the IMF, is expected to run through 2017 to the end of 2018. Let's look at some stories from the oil and gas sector. And the Africa Center for Energy Policy says it is preparing to sue government for what it describes as a breach in aspects of the Petroleum Revenue Management Law. According to the energy think tank, government has failed to publish as part of its annual report on oil revenue stages of completion of all projects funded with oil money as well as the expenditure incurred. Executive Director Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam spoke to Joy Business at a forum on open contracting in the 2014 Petroleum Exploration and Production Bill.
We are already preparing to sue the government about a violation of a section of the Petroleum Revenue Management Law, but we don't have all the money to go to court every day. And so if GNPC is required, I'm talking about section 48(2)B of the Petroleum Revenue Management Law, which requires the government to publish every year as part of its annual report on oil revenues, stages of completion of all projects funded with oil money and the expenditure incurred on those projects. Government hasn't done that, even though the law has been in operation since 2011. And unless government does that, how will you and I know how the oil money is being used? Which projects are funded? How much are we spending on those projects? What is their level of completion? And so the possibility that one project can be allocated money every year is very high, because you don't know the stage of completion of that project. Okay? And so if government is not complying with the law, citizens must speak up. If government will not listen, let's take them to court.
Now, the Bank of Ghana says it has initiated steps to protect bank customers from being exploited by commercial banks in the payment and settlement processes. Some commercial banks are alleged to unduly delay crediting clients' accounts with inbound transfers. The central bank says it is worried about the practice and has warned it will get tough on liable commercial banks. Let's look at some international business stories. Volkswagen has reported a sharp jump in annual profits, but warned of tough market conditions this year. Europe's largest car maker posted net profits of 10.8 billion euros for 2014, up 21% on the previous year. After revenues rose slightly to 202.5 billion, the company said it had hit its largest in what was a satisfying year, but it said it would face fierce competition and volatility in exchange rates and raw material prices in the year ahead. That will be all for business. Well, sports is next. I'm Etonam. Say have a good weekend.
Time to do some sports now. The Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Nyantakyi has exclusively told Joy Sports he has taken the gauntlet thrown by President John Mahama to improve the state of the First Capital Plus Premier League. John Dramani Mahama, in his State of the Nation address on Thursday, lamented the poor state of the First Capital Plus Premier League, and which is having a hard time drawing crowds with clubs lacking the requisite professionalism. The Ghana FA president, in a response to the president's comment, admitted the First Capital Plus Premier League needs special attention.
I think that is welcome advice. First, let's thank His Excellency the President for raising football to the level of a State of a Nation address. Having put it on that platform means there is now more attention and reverence being given to football, and that alone will draw attention and subsequently the necessary financial and material support to give effect to these laudable ideas. When comments of this nature are made, you must take them in their stride and then make the efforts to improve the situation. Nobody, including the President of the Federation, can say that he's happy with the state of our domestic competition. We've done a lot to bring it this far, but there is still much more room for improvements.
We can do some more. And Giant Hearts of Oak must beat AS Police in their second leg CAF Confederations Cup preliminary round game tomorrow in Benin. Hearts left Accra for Benin yesterday by road with a 30-man contingent which comprised of 20 players, 6 technical men and 4 officials. The Phobians must avoid defeat to qualify for the next stage of the competition.
Category.
We'll still stay with the CAF Confederations Cup, and former Black Stars coach Kwesi Appiah continues his weekend journey to re-establish himself as a leading African football coach. The 54-year-old former coach of the Black Stars will be in Zambia with Sudanese side Al Hatoum seeking Confederations Cup last 32 place. Bankrolled by the Sudanese military, Hatoum hold a precarious 1-0 lead over Power Dynamos following their mid-February first leg win in that one. Now, well, time to talk about what's happening in terms of the 2022 World Cup. There are great updates coming in, and as it stands, clubs are not too excited with the fact that the World Cup final might be taking place in December.
The exact dates for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
The final story then, and more than 1 billion young people risk damage in their hearing through listening to loud music, according to the World Health Organization. The vuvuzela, which was introduced in the stadium 5 years ago at the FIFA World Cup in South Africa, could go extinct. Here's the BBC's Piers Edwards with this report. Interesting, we'll find out what happens to football without the vuvuzela and all the noise. In Ghana's About the Drums. That'll be all for sports tonight. Have a great weekend. Get to join us with some more.
So the Supreme Court's ruling putting on hold the March 3 district level elections has been the main story for today. There have been several reactions from across the country, but the reactions will not be complete until you've heard from probably the most popular aspirant, Ibrahim Issa Adabo, who is contesting as Assembly member for the Edukrom electoral area in Kumasi, popularly known as Aponche. Well, he has expressed worry about the extra funds that he will have to spend campaigning as a result of the suspension. He's however urging his fellow aspirants to exercise patience and respects the decision, I beg your pardon, of the court.
As now, we accepted that we should going to stop the election. You see, they should never worry. That thing will take us to do more campaign for the election or less the election count. So they should never worry. The thing that the elders or the president or the government said, they should take it and do it, or they should take it and do our campaign.
So you think that the court decision to suspend it wouldn't affect you at all?
No, it didn't affect me. I tell you, it's good things, it's good matter for me.
Meanwhile, Aponche, whose campaign rap video has been a hit on social media after he exclusively shared it with Joy News, has decided to compose a jingle in appreciation of Joy News for making him so popular.
This is jingle for Joy News. Wow, I'm for the Joy News, babe. I'm for the Joy News. You should come with me again. Don't let me live lonely. But come and satisfy me. I'm for the Joy News. You should come with me again. Don't let me live lonely. But come and help me. Hey.
Only on Joy News, definitely the onlookers were extremely impressed. That's it for the bulletin. Let's take a look at our top stories again. Electoral Commission suspends March 3 district level elections until further notice. The decision follows a Supreme Court ruling declaring the upcoming election unconstitutional. And we brought you some reactions from around the country, the implications of the ruling, and we heard what government had to say about it. Employment and Labour Relations Minister says it is untrue that government intends to embark on mass layoffs in the public sector as part of the conditions for the release of the International Monetary Fund's financial package. Also, we shared with you the story of an SHS leaver who is now a driver's mate but is still having his ambition to become an economist at heart. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Ando. Many thanks for your time. Up next, It's PM Express with Nana Sako. Please stay.
This is Joy News Prime.